Hello OAS family, it is time for another book review, and today we are reviewing a book called Peony Painting Techniques by Ho Yu Lin. And we are going to, before we get into the specifics of the book, we're going to talk about the general statistics. The book is 8 1/4 inches wide by 11 7/8 inches high. It has approximately 117 pages or 119 pages, and it has text predominantly in Chinese. But before you, if you're not a native Chinese, if you don't read Chinese, I encourage you to continue to watch the video book review, because I do feel like there is quite a lot available in this book, strictly by looking at the visuals and the paintings that are available. Another important detail about this book is that this book is actually bound in the traditional Chinese style. So for those of you who don't know, Chinese traditionally is meant to be read from right to left, rather than traditionally how we're used to in English, from left to right. Now, because of the internet and how dominant the other way has become, most Chinese books now have changed and are now bound in the traditional way that Western books are bound from. But this book in particular, and about a handful of other books, are bound in a way that would seem reverse. So how you're supposed to read this book is you're supposed to open it like this, and you're supposed to read it from this page all the way through, what would seemingly be backwards according to what we're used to. But it's not a mistake. It's done on purpose, and it's done because traditionally that is the way that Chinese is to be read. So make sure that you note that so you aren't surprised when you get the book. Without further ado, we're going to get into the details of the book. So we have this introductory section here, and this is talking about like the placing the peony in historical context. So it talks a little bit about its prominence in the various Chinese dynasty, from the Qing dynasty to the Song dynasty to the Ming dynasty. And it talks about the peony's place in history, and a little bit about its cultural significance. And so this whole section is sort of dedicated to that, and is set amongst some finished compositions that are showing the peony along with other historical or mythical subjects, as well as some finished peony paintings, these final compositions as it goes through these various bits of historical information. So this section here is all about that. Then we get into a section that's basically about peony biology. So it's talking about the different pieces, the anatomy of the flower, and how to think about the anatomy of the flower, particularly when it comes to depicting it as a painter. So this is a whole section on kind of the anatomy of peony. And then we get into the meat of the book, which is, now we're going to talk about the painting techniques. So you can see here it starts off with a fairly finished composition with these numbered diagrams showing these different stroke elements called out by number here. And then it has this next section which takes elements of the flower and sets them alongside photos, and then shows you some stroke buildups rendering to the final element. So here we have this closed bud, so you can see this stroke buildup here, where you can have this first element, and then it builds it up in these 4 stages into this final closed bud. And then you have this young bud here on this side. Another sort of close-up of these small young flowers in various stages of opening. So you can see the techniques for how they show different depictions of that, from like something that's totally closed, a totally closed bud, to where it's just starting to open, and then these various stages to maybe this one, which is its most mature stage, when we're starting to get the petals unfolding. Once again, another similar build-up, focusing on different young buds, also different facings in this one. And now we're getting into some more mature flowers. So this is a very useful stroke build-up, where we start here. You can see how they build these petal groupings in these various strokes. So starting in 5 stages, working up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then eventually the full flower here on this 5th stage. And now we see a full flower shown with various facings. So you can see here, maybe looking at it from the underside here, looking at it from a bit of like a front view, and then here is more like a top view. So some more ideas of these full flowers or opening flowers, maturing flowers. You can see a couple different facings here set alongside some photographs. Now we get into like a different color ideas, showing the color possibilities with some peonies. Now we're getting into this sort of darker purple flower. And then this flower here, various stages of opening of this dark red flower. Switching the color again to something that's more dominant in the sort of vermilion shade. And then something that has, where we lighten up the color, and looking at something that's more yellow dominant with touches of vermilion and red. This is lovely, getting into this green flower, very unusual idea here. And then into a blue flower. And then changing the color again, where we get this sort of like coral color. Again, showing various stages of the flowers maturing from this fully open flower into these more younger flowers. Showing something in white here. So the color use in this palette is relatively restrained, with color really reserved for the tips here. And then we're seeing mostly the work of different shades of ink. And then here they're building a series where they show like a composition that has finished composition, and they're going to build it up in different stages. So they start here with the young flower, and then they have a bud that is alongside a more mature flower, and then you also see how they do the leaf groupings here on the left hand side. So they're basically a 2-stage build-up, where they start showing the flower renderings first, and then they fill in with the leaves afterwards. So you can see here where they're adding the branches and stems to this. And then they finish off the painting with some details where they have some very young branches that end in buds, and then a couple bees and some background elements added to the painting. So this is basically a 1, 2, 3, 4 panel workup to this finished composition here. Some ideas for how the branch configurations are done. So you can see here these three different compositions for how to do the stems and branch work. And then some focusing on the leaves here. So we have sequential buildups of how to make these sort of kind of trident style leaf groupings. And some more ideas about the leaves and how they're relating to the branches and the stems. And then we have these depictions, which are sort of like old branches and leaf buds. This is sort of after, this is sort of when the plant is going into its more dormant stages, maybe in the winter, where we're seeing that it's dropped most of its flowers, but it is still there with these young leaf groupings. So maybe sort of this winter entering into early spring stage of the development of the bush. Then we have some finished compositions here with these yellow with vermilion here, and then this beautiful purple flower, some finished compositions. And then a couple more. This one is that interesting green color that they're using. And then here is this sort of coral with some deeper shades of red in the background. And this is sort of darker red with touches of orange. And then we have a blue flower. Again, these really lovely ideas for finished compositions. These are all done by various artists, and the artist name is credited here in the lower right or lower left-hand corner. So two more with these sort of red or pink type petal colors. Here we're showing touches of yellow. And then a couple more. You're seeing here like the immense variation that we see in the flower renderings, in different sizes, different petal configurations. This is a very interesting color combination here where we have these more muted colors with these touches of pink, almost like this olive coloration. It's very interesting. Here's the first one where we're seeing some outline work for the petals. So this is just a different style where they're showing outline work both on the leaves and the petals. So here's a couple more compositions where we have line work in varying levels here. We have some line work here that's accenting the branches and the leaves, and a little bit of light line work that goes into defining the petals. And then we have this one, which is almost like a mixture of like drawing elements with the line work and then blended with these shape strokes to make something very unique. And then here is one where you see that the petal work is quite dominantly done in line work. So that's very interesting. And then a much looser rendition here is more shei style with just this boneless technique, or just using the shape strokes. Same here with this very interesting rich color palette here. This painting we featured in one of our recent emails, and this is really a lovely lovely peony where you can see the line work and the light ink shades that are used to define the petals. Another one here that's predominantly done in line work, and then juxtaposed against this one, which is much freer in the shape and using mostly shape strokes in the boneless style. So lots of ideas here for finished compositions. Here's one done predominantly in ink with just a touch of vermilion there to create a little bit of a highlight element, but the rest of the painting is done in shades of ink. And then we finish with a section that just has some finished compositions set amongst poems that are on Peony. So all of these writings here are just different poems that feature the idea of Peony and give you a sense of the cultural, emotional relationship with the peony as expressed in verse. So we finish with a series of poems along with some finished compositions that are done in both the spontaneous, but actually most of them in this section are actually done in the fine line or gongbi style. So these are all like gongbi fine line peony works that are set alongside these poems. So that is basically it. That's Peony Painting Techniques by Ho Yu Lee. And if you want to purchase this book, you can find it on our website at orientalartsupply.com. If you make sure you like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And as always, we wish you happy painting.